Emotions can definitely get the best of us at times. I will certainly be the first one to raise my hand for how easy it can sometimes be to just be overwhelmed by our emotions. But I'll also say that over time, I've gotten a lot better at it. I've gotten a lot better about realizing when maybe impatience creeps up. I've gotten a lot better about realizing maybe when I don't need to respond to something in a certain way. Maybe I can just let it be, let it go, let it not affect me or not ruin my day in a certain way. This is something that is the result of years of self reflection, self awareness, of doing the self work that is necessary to really balance things out. Because one of the things about emotions is just like our thoughts, they don't really exist. Now, this sounds very revolutionary, and of course, a lot of the things that I've been saying a lot probably pricks up a lot of ears, but think about this for a moment, right? Yes, we do experience emotions. That part is true. I'm not saying that we're not happy, we're not sad, we don't grieve, we're not jealous, we're not angry. These are all the range of human emotions that we all experience, some of us more intensely than others. But they're not the essence of who we are. And you've noticed that I've been talking a lot about this essence, right? This core, this true self, right? Because this essence, as we all know, is unchanging. Emotions, by their very nature, are always changing, right? The analogy that I always like to use is that we are the sky behind all the clouds. If the clouds are our emotions, then we are the ones that are constant, stable, balanced, calm, peaceful. Every day that you wake up, the sky might look different. It might be completely overcast, there might be a few clouds, it might be fully sunny, but regardless, there's always the sky, and the sky never changes. What changes is our perception of the sky, and that's influenced by, the amount and the movement and basically the shape of the clouds. So similarly, our essence is that sky that is always still, that is always calm, but sometimes we have all these emotions kind of circulating within our being, within our circle. And too often do we associate with those emotions. So if we experience something that is painful and we're grieving the loss of someone, we'll kind of build that into our character, right? We'll build that into our identity, and we'll see ourselves as the victim, as life was this unfair force, or God was unfair for taking that loved one away from my life. Now I am a grieving mother, I'm a grieving father, I'm a grieving son, right? We kind of carve that into our identity. But that's not who we are. We're not the grieving mother or father or son or daughter. We just simply are. There's no room for labels. There's no new. Yes, we experience grief. And one of the things that I want to get across from this video is that we should honor our emotions, right? We shouldn't be a brick wall and just absolutely ignore our emotions. When we're happy, laugh. When we're sad, cry. But don't be attached to your emotions either. Don't believe them to make up the essence of who you are, because they simply aren't, right? And this is what I ultimately mean about mastering your emotions. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean that you just completely ignore all emotions and you try not to feel anything, right? That would be doing a major disservice to the human experience that you are living, right? Mastering your emotions means you recognize your emotions. You notice them and you observe them from a safe place of distance. And as you notice your emotions, whether they can be extreme feelings of hate or anger, pride, jealousy, any sort of, or even love, right? It doesn't have to be quote unquote negative emotions. It could be positive emotions too. Whatever you're experiencing, just simply notice them and see what you can learn from that moment. See where those emotions started, see what kind of frequency or vibration they give off, and where those emotions eventually go. And over time, as you get more experienced in this, you'll be able to see that thoughts come and then they'll go. and then they'll come, and then they'll go. Yes, they might have a particular charge to them, but as long as we don't get swept into the waves that they come and go in, we'll always be the master over them. We'll always exude a sense of calm and equanimity, which I know sounds like a fancy word, but it really is. What it means is just being able to have a level head in all scenarios, in moments of extreme highs and in moments of extreme lows. That is something, unfortunately, not a lot of us are very good at doing, at least not in this moment. I mentioned myself, I was terrible at this, right? You can ask my brother this. When I was a little kid, I'd be hungry for a couple hours and I'd throw a big fit. Why am I not being fed? And I'm so hungry and I don't want to go here and I don't want to do that until I have a bag of chips or something like that. And there's a whole wide range of emotions, but over time, as I began to notice them, as I began to become aware of them, I started to realize that these are very fleeting, very temporary, very inconsequential. And if you look at who I was, back then, and you plotted my emotions on a graph, it's almost kind of like a roller coaster. You have those really deep valleys, and then you have those very steep peaks. Now, if you graph it, it's pretty much like a straight line, and it's a little bit on the flatter side. It's very boring. It doesn't have that exciting highs or the depressing lows, but it's steady. It's calm. It's, nowadays people, some people have even said, they said, I've never really seen you get really angry before, or I've never really seen you get extremely excited that you're over the moon and that you can't contain yourself. And most of that is by design, right? It's not by accident that way. I used to be someone that whenever I was watching my favorite sports team, if they won, I'd be running across they're running across the house, and if they lost, I'd be crying for a couple of days. So it's a matter of being able to notice those emotions. Some of it comes with time and maturity, but some of it, and this is the part that I wanted to focus on a little bit more, comes from consciously observing our behaviors, consciously observing our emotions, right? See yourself as if you are kind of examining another person, right? It's so easy for us to look at other people and to judge them and to examine them, right? Because quote unquote, they're not us. Now, I want you to do something similar, but this time do it for yourself. Notice everything you're doing. Notice all the emotions that you're experiencing. If it's helpful, try to write it down. Maybe keep a journal, maybe keep a log, and notice how you're feeling in certain times of the day. Are there certain emotions that you tend to gravitate more than others? Do these emotions last for a very long time or are they very short? And what's the ultimate outcome? What do these emotions ultimately produce? Do they inspire you to make change or do you kind of retreat into a pit of sadness or a pit of self-pity? What do these emotions ultimately bring out of you? This is all part of the self-work and the inner exploration that helps you become a more awakened being. And it helps you ultimately master these emotions, to be calm in the face of both joy and adversity. Now, I know for some folks that might not sound very interesting, right? We want to feel really excited and over the moon when something good happens. But as long as that happens, there's always going to be the other extreme side of it, where the moment we don't get the thing we want, the moment we experience heartbreak or grief or loss of any kind, we will fall into deep levels of despair, right? So you have to ask yourself, do you want that extreme volatility, that extreme dispersion between the highs and the lows, or do you want something that's more steady, something that's more calm, something that's more sustaining, right? That's where we all crave to be, right? We all crave a sense of inner peace. When we say we want to be happy, what we really mean is we want a level of peace. Because happiness, as we know, is always accompanied by sadness. You can never live a life of complete happiness, just like you can never live a life of complete sadness. But you can, for the most part, live a life of peace. You can, for the most part, accept everything that comes your way, the good and the bad, until you start to see that there's actually no good and no bad anymore. These are just words that we've created. These are words that our minds have created, dualities that have been created, when in essence, they're both intertwined. They're the yin and the yang. So now look through the yin and the yang. See everything as one. See everything as the source, right? If you take a look at a prism, for example, you'll see that into the prism, there's one source of light, right? But what comes out of the prism is the colors of the rainbow. Well, the same is true with our emotions. The colors of the rainbow are like our emotions. We get so many different types of emotions, most of which I mentioned previously. But if you trace each of those emotions back to its source, it's one source, it's one essence. It's that pure white light. And that is the person that is experiencing the emotions, the soul that is experiencing those emotions. I want you to trace your way back to that origin, back to that core. And not to just ultimately observe it, but to ultimately live in it, be in it, act upon it. Right? It's an expression that I sometimes use for myself called living from the soul. Not living from the mind, which is what all of us do, including myself at times. Not living through the body, because the body is pretty useless without the mind to control it. But living from the soul, living from a place of intuition, from a place of God-given guidance. That is the ultimate way of living. And the only way we can do that is if we can master our emotions. Honor them, yes. Experience them, yes. But once we reach a level of stability that we are able to examine it further, then we start to see deeper behind what these emotions really mean, right? And there's a way to kind of do this gradually, right? I'm not saying that if you lost your beloved dog or cat today, that tomorrow, you're going to be expected to get over that grief. Remember, it's not about resisting or pushing back the emotions. You go through that cycle. There's no way to avoid the emotions of life. But my ultimate hope for you is that you're able to see through those emotions. You're able to see that these emotions are not, while you do experience them, are not the essence of who you are. Once you realize this, that is when your life starts to truly change. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got a little deeper sense of what emotions are, why they appear, how we can ultimately learn from them, and more importantly, how we can see that we are beyond any sort of emotions that can come our way. If you have any thoughts or suggestions or just want to say something, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. It's always great to kind of see these different comments and to be able to hear different perspectives out there. But otherwise, please take a moment to drop a like if you like the video, share it with your loved ones or people you know who might benefit from it, and take some time to explore some of the other content on the channel. As I've mentioned before, I'm really working on coming out with more videos, newer style videos, less of the footage heavy, more of kind of the raw videos where you'll just kind of hear me speak for 10, 15 minutes, and hopefully you walk away learning something that could positively change your life and help you awaken. So with that, thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.